On your marks!
Oh, no.
And they're off!
Sentinel, wait!
Is it on? Okay, thank you. Hello my friends, hello YouTubers, hello to my saviors, the industrious subscribers who watch my content selflessly to keep a roof over my head.
You gotta be kidding me.
I celebrate you. And in this video, I'll be ranking everyone's favourite jerk, Sentinel Prime. And to join me on my quest is the one and only Sixo.
Hello, thank you very much for having me along for the ride.
Sixo does a lot of great content, both on YouTube and through the World Wide Web. He's literally the only reason I find Twitter so entertaining.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I try my best.
Outstanding. I love a bot who can think for himself.
You might feel different when the slime they spew out melts through your armor plating and rots your circuits from the inside. I've had some experience with organics, and believe me, nothing good can come from contact with them. Isn't that right, Optimus?
Since 2007, Sentinel Prime has been a very prominent character in the franchise, making his way from small screen to big screen. He's also appeared in various comics and video games, and he's also had history rewritten for him. His latest appearance is in Transformers 1, and I gotta say, we've got quite a handful of various designs here to look at. Sixo, would you say this character's one of your favourites?
Hard to judge him as a favourite, I guess just because every depiction of him is so different. You already said it, but kind of the one overriding theme of this character is that he's a jerk, so it's hard to love him in that regard. You know, there are very few interpretations of him that are in any way favourable, but still it's a fun character for sure, and I think what they've done with him in Transformers 1 is fantastic. So I don't know, a love to hate kind of thing maybe.
Oh yeah, we love to hate this guy.
Why, you little... First, let's...
So without further ado, let's dive straight into the tier names, and first up, of course, had to be...
This is a Cybertronian fugitive, and I'll enforce my authority as the Primer Prime. Did you just make that up? No. There's no such thing as a Primer Prime. It's a real term. Look it up. I'm not gonna look it up. Afraid I'm right.
And now for the second tier, we'll have a quote from Dark of the Moon.
We were gods once.
And now for the middle tier, where we kind of like it, but then we don't at the same time.
Finally, the Omega Key is within my... What? Did you really think it would be that easy? Come down here, Zeta Prime, and I will give you the answer.
Now for the fourth tier, we'll have a quote from the upcoming Transformers 1 movie.
Sentinel, where are you? Look down.
And now finally, for the worst tier.
I hereby discharge you from duty.
First up is, weirdly enough, Generation 1. Not intended to be Sentinel Prime, he was quickly rewritten by the fans in the 5 Faces of Darkness Part 4.
I did look this up briefly just to kind of remind myself, because I have seen this episode a long time ago, I will admit, and this was a bit of a revelation for me actually, because I think I'd spaced on the fact that this had been retconned to be Sentinel Prime, and the wiki has it listed as U-Haul Robot.
Wasn't that oversized bot decommissioned and melted down for spare parts?
I can see why people think it is Sentinel Prime, because it's kind of weirdly on point versus the colours and things like this that you see of the character later on.
You know, maybe we'll get Studio Series. I'm quite surprised they haven't already, to be honest, because I actually do like the vehicle mode.
Yeah, it looks like one of those things that like you kind of go on at like a fairground or something like that, or like a people carrier, but like the spikes are pretty metal, aren't they, at the front? So it's definitely something.
I was going to say a Cybertronian Rhino, but yeah, that goes the same. Where would we place him on the tier, though? Of course, he wasn't intended to be Sentinel Prime, but...
I kind of like it for that, honestly. Like, it looks sort of weirdly appropriate for what the character's kind of... sort of archetype of the character, if you like particularly Transformers 1. Even, like, the facial features and stuff are kind of on point. I would rank it pretty high.
Now moving on to the Marvel Comics, the UK comic, we have Sentinel Prime, once again retconned to be Sentinel Prime.
This was a random panel in a random comic in the Marvel comic, and it wasn't identified as being Sentinel Prime, but it's just a picture of this robot clearly dying and passing the Matrix to Optimus. But then elsewhere in the comic, it's mentioned that Sentinel Prime was the Matrix bearer before Optimus, so people have sort of put two and two together and gone, oh, that must be Sentinel Prime then. Even though those two things happen at completely different points in the comic, you know, you can sort of extrapolate that, yeah, it must be him.
Now, as a design, we don't get to see an awful lot of it. And to be fair, the design, I mean, those hands are super realistic. They look like...
Yeah, they are.
You got a problem with that, cadet?
Sir? No, sir.
full-on human hands we've got going off here.
Which I kind of dig. I think it works well, and you know, it does look good. It's just nothing like many of the other interpretations of the character.
I feel like you'd think it'd be easy, you know?
Yeah, I get you.
Do I have to do everything myself?
Next one, you have a much more better history than me. Would you like to introduce the next one?
Well, it's a very recent toy, of course. It's only just come out. I'm literally looking at my copy now on the shelf, and this thing is glorious, in my opinion. I've just done a video on it, and I think it's amazing. So it's a recolor of the new Missing Link Optimus Prime convoy toy, done in orange and blue. And I think what's cool about this is that it's a kind of weird amalgamation of lots of different Sentinel Prime influences. And I've seen like a few people online being like, who wants this? What is this thing? Actually, it's not sort of like a distinct thing by itself. It's kind of like Takara loved doing this, of kind of like peppering in lots of different influences. And so even though it's an Optimus Prime recolor, I think it works really well.
Now here's a bot who knows his place.
I actually didn't know this existed until I saw that video, which I definitely think people should check out because it just looks glorious. The way how you presented it anyway, it looks absolutely glorious, you know. I really do actually like this. Usually I'm not like a big fan of like redecos and what if they don't have anything unique or nothing new to add. So when you think about it as just G1 terms, I'm okay with these kind of redecos and stuff.
To me, this is brilliant. Like Optimus Prime in orange, what's there not to like?
Moving on to Transformers Animated, the most prominent version of the character.
Get your fan belts in gear.
This is like his first ever incarnation, right? So we've got him both in his Cybertronian and Earth mode. And I love both of these. You know, I felt like the deluxe toy, should have always been a Voyager.
Yeah, it's a great design, honestly. And you're right, you know, this was kind of the first real interpretation of Sentinel Prime. Like, you know, after he'd been name dropped in the Marvel comic, this was like the first time we actually kind of got to meet him as a proper character. And I agree on the toy. I really like the toy.
Forget Mudflap's jaw. Check out the asteroid-sized chin on Sarge.
You got a comment, funny butt?
The only thing I'd probably critique the Cybertronian mode is just his shoulders, like the wheels. They're just basically the Earth mode, but...
The last thing we need is some over-glorified repair bot shooting his audio processor off about things he doesn't understand.
I like it when the Cybertronian and the Earth modes are so radically different from each other. The Cybertronian mode has got like a real Thundercats vibe to it. You know, like was it the Thunder Tank or whatever? It really looks like that to me.
Once again, it's like, I hope because we only had a couple of Cybertronian modes of Transformers Animated, you know, make it into toys. And this was one of them, but I always wanted.
It is a shame they didn't do it, yeah.
This is all your fault!
So if Season 4 were to go ahead, well... Sentinel Prime's ego would have exponentially gone bigger, especially in terms of his design. You know, he's just full of himself, and I think this design really shows. Yes, it's full-on egocentric, but I actually really like those shoulder pads and the extra fins on his head as well.
It's kind of like a weird reverse of Starscream in the 1986 movie, in a way. You know, it's got like the sort of proportions and everything. He just becomes a bit bigger, the shoulder pads, the cape, and all of that kind of stuff. It definitely fits the character.
Yeah. Well, he's basically Starscream, but the Autobot version, you know.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah, like the supposed good guy.
Any more false accusations you want to make? Or should I just court-martial you right now?
Well, we've shrunk his ego in the Creo form. I like the helmet. It's very unique. It's not full-on animated. Obviously, his body is, but I like that the helmet's a little bit different.
I think it's super cool, and I love that they did some of these kind of more niche characters in Creo and stuff like that, you know, rather than like... I kind of think that if they did Creo now, it would be a lot of like Optimus Primes and Bumblebees and that kind of stuff. But at the time, we got some really niche stuff, and I think that's cool.
But right now, Cybertron needs a leader. And for better or worse... that leader is you.
Got that right, buddy.
This is basically the Creo head, you know, just on on a little mini 2 wheels. It's actually quite cute, bless him.
This is ridiculous.
I love that he's still got his Autobot guard a tampo on there as well, you know, on his chest or whatever.
Yeah, he's still important to himself.
You
I... Sorry.
Now, in the Wings universe, I think it works. You know, I've always said this. Derek J. White's art style is phenomenal, but I also think that his designs can work in any kind of shapes and forms as well, because they just stand out so well. And I think this one, for example, is a good example of that. You know, for people who like animated designs to be a bit more like G1ified, you know, especially with the Legacy line, I think this works as well. I could see this being a Legacy toy, for example.
Yeah, I totally could, and I completely agree with you, because like the animated style is an art style at the end of the day, isn't it? It's not necessarily what those characters look like in terms of their proportions and things like that. So for it to work elsewhere in the universe of Transformers, you've got to translate that, and I think you're right, this does that very well.
Keep your audio unit shut or I'll do it for you.
I'd like to see you try, you worthless crankshaft.
That's it!
Moving on to the Aligned continuity, where originally Zeta Prime was renamed to Sentinel Prime, just because Hasbro really needed this to be aligned. We have the War for Cybertron High Moon Studios game Sentinel Prime. I actually really like this design a lot. Of course, this character, in terms of backstory, was quite corrupt. I mean, it fell to the hands of Megatron pretty easy, to be fair.
Yeah, this is not my area of expertise, I've got to say. Like, anything vaguely, you know, video game related is definitely not my wheelhouse, unfortunately. But I do love the design. I think it's really cool. I think what's great about it is that it looks very different, but you can still instantly recognize it as being sort of the same archetype.
So originally he was going to be this sort of goldish red instead of the blue and gold. I think the blue and gold and red works so much better than the all yellow.
I agree, yeah.
A noble sentiment, Optimus. And I'm afraid I'm dead already.
The Aligned continuity did have the Covenant of Primus, so this is kind of like merging two worlds together, and I really like that head design, to be fair. I would have loved to have seen this in the game.
This works really well because of exactly what you said. It's the head design pulls it together and makes it more Sentinel Prime. I think it's the long arms as well, kind of is quite referential of animated, so I think that works.
It's very more Transformers Prime style as well, which, you know, it's why a lot of people are very keen on this design, because, you know, we just wanted to see Sentinel Prime, Zeta Prime in that aesthetic.
High Council, I return with a fallen hero, till all are one.
Moving on to the IDW comics, we've got various Sentinel Prime designs, but we'll start off with his first one that we see, along with his vehicle mode as well. Really, really cool. It's a little bit too, I guess, stuffed is the word. He's a very bulky guy.
His toes are huge. They really are. Yeah. This is quite something, this design.
Bayverse Optimus.
I like the design though. It's cool. I like the treads on the back of the legs. I like the big feet. I like the massive gun.
Save it for the court-martial!
So his second design, it's not that much different. The only thing that's really different is the head design. Chest is a little bit different.
I mean, overall, I definitely prefer the blue and orange mix. I think the kind of all orange and yellow is not so much my thing, but I guess it's looking back to that original Marvel comic. I do like it. I like his kind of massive cannons coming up behind his head and things like that. So I would feel pretty favourable about this.
Alright, next up in IDW, you got the Apex armor, and he is an absolute unit. Let's just say that.
Man, look at this thing.
I do like it, but it is so complicated.
It's not very Transformers in a weird way. Like, it's more kind of other robot franchise, if that makes sense. But
That's treason, soldier! Arrest him!
But it's not like anything we've not seen before. Transformers designs have been so complex, but still cool at the same time. You know, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot by saying, oh, I liked this, but it was complicated. But then this, I'm not quite sure of. I think it's just the top part, like near his head area, but I just think it's so excessive.
I like it. It's just, it doesn't stand out for me as much as some of the others.
Finish it!
I do like how it looks here because it's a lot more cleaner than the previous one. But once again, like we were just saying, it's very much... it just gives me RID vibes, actually, from 2015.
I would agree with that, to be honest. Yeah, I really like it. It's just, you got to rank it somehow, don't you? And there's always going to be things at the top and things not at the top.
So, you're all traitors. Well, that explains it.
He had a toy in Time's Return, which I actually thought this was just a redeco and made into Astro Train. No, in fact, he was made first, and then it was redecoed to be Astro Train. So this came first,
Rules were meant to be broken. You gotta tune up or tune out, old bot.
While you've been busy rusting on this moisture-laden rock, we've been making some improvements back on Cybertron.
Cool looking toy, definitely. I've never owned this toy, but obviously this is how they get you to buy it twice, because they get you to get the first one and it's like a pre-tool or whatever, and then they put out the one that everybody actually wants. But I kind of love this thing just because of how absurd the color scheme is. Like, it's so outrageous that just appeals to me in a really weird way. So it's definitely a good Transformers design, I think.
I brought you here to keep an optic on you, not for your opinion.
Okay, moving on to a Sentinel Prime that everyone's more likely to be familiar with is the Dark of the Moon Sentinel Prime, voiced by the late Leonard Nimoy. Such an iconic voice on such an iconic design. I love this.
I think this works on several levels. I think firstly the fact that it's a fire truck is super cool, because there's something that doesn't happen often enough in Transformers anyway. Like, there are obviously lots of good fire trucks and things, but there's something about this character being a fire truck that just works. I think the robot design is super cool. The face is weirdly humanoid, but in a way that works.
They originally modelled his face after Sean Connery, which I thought was quite surprising, because to me, he's always looked like Leonard Nimoy.
I was going to say, yeah, that's really weird. You could have told me it was modelled after Leonard Nimoy, and I would have thought, yeah, that makes sense.
Because you just hear that voice, and it just matches this design so well.
And of course, he was a different colour, wasn't he, in the first trailer?
Yellowish gold, which was based on original concept art. Yeah, I'm so glad they changed it, because that looks terrible. I don't know if it's because they were basing it on IDW, like, at the time, so they thought, would this work, or was it just temporary colours just to throw people off?
Maybe it's just that this shot in the trailer wasn't particularly well lit, and it would have looked better in reality, but I'm definitely happier with him being red.
Of course, there was this disbelief in my head when watching the film of, wait, he's already in his Earth mode. Well, thankfully, the prequel comics, gave more filler to that and actually gave him a unique Cybertronian mode. So they reworked that chest to make it look less like a fire engine, which I think really works. Of course, his design is still there from Dark of the Moon, but it's just slightly altered to be more Cybertronian.
Yeah, I've actually not seen this before. That's interesting. It works though. It looks cool. Still got his double-handed blade.
I actually did own a Sentinel Prime toy. I'm not going to include this in the ranking, this is just for extra filler, but it was actually the Cyberverse toy. I still own it somewhere. I don't have its accessories anymore, but I still have this somewhere.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I wanted the big one, but I got the little one.
Yeah, the little one looks cute as well. Why not?
I was like, why, Mum? She goes, budget reasons, son.
Yeah, exactly. Sentinel Prime at home.
Yeah, he fits in your pocket. What else can you want?
Exactly.
Actually, something that I also think is cool is the Creo version of Sentinel Prime.
It works surprisingly well, because it's not like, you could look at this versus the kind of modern Lego Optimus Prime and think, well, it doesn't look as kind of cohesive as that. That is also not meant to be something that, like, kids are going to play with necessarily in the same way, whereas I think this is aimed at, the kind of younger audience, and I think it works really well.
Now, as for other mini versions of Sentinel Prime, we've got the bot shots, and then we have the regular miniature Creo. It looks like Cliffjumper to me.
I'd rather go offline.
That can be arranged.
Really does. I was just thinking the same thing. This is like generic mini-bot, it could be anybody.
And you would be wise to remember the difference.
I like them as designs, but as Sentinel Prime, it doesn't work for me.
I've heard enough. Wheel him out!
Alright, next up, we have Angry Birds Sentinel Prime.
What is that thing?
I should have expected this one. I have played Angry Birds, I have played. That is one video game that I have played.
For this one, though, I can't say I quite defend, because it's just Heatwave, from Rescue Bots.
Mute it, motor mouth.
It really is. Yeah, it's so true. Sometimes you have to look at the design and think, does that feel like Sentinel Prime to me or not? And this is one that, if you didn't tell me who it was, I wouldn't have known.
I just never knew. Never imagined something this unspeakable could have happened to you. How can you even live like that? I mean, it's horrible. It's disgusting.
Okay, I get it. It's bad, but it's not that bad.
I would say hysterically laughing.
It's got to be, hasn't it, really?
You're lucky I didn't kill you. In time, you'll see.
Moving on is his recent incarnation. He's made it back once again to the movies. It's Sentinel Prime from Transformers 1. And hell, what a character. He knows how to make an entrance alright. It definitely gives me Deathsaurus kind of vibes. You know, with the wings.
Yeah.
You slagwell better have proof!
I hadn't thought of that actually, but it totally does. I think this is an amazing design. It looks so good in the film. The blue is incredible. It really kind of sounds silly, but it kind of catches the light nicely. Like they really show him off as like all shiny, and it just looks amazing on screen.
Yeah, it's like a good blend of Transformers animated and with Dark of the Moon as well. It's kind of like a merge of designs, like, you know, it all comes together. We've got a unified sort of Sentinel looking design.
And personality wise as well, I know that's not what we're ranking here, but the character in the film, you know, no spoilers, but it does feel like a weird amalgamation of that, like the smugness of Transformers animated and, well, bits of the Bayverse, let's say, you know?
This is like what I wanted from that IDW design we were talking about, you know, just a little bit more toned down. I guess the one thing I would say I don't like about the design is its vehicle mode. It looks like a regular Tetrajet.
Silence, Organic! You have no rights here!
I see what you're saying about the Tetrajet thing. In a movie where there are like a lot of Tetrajets already, you know, there are tons of Seekers in the film, so I would put it behind the animated one, but not far behind.
So I would say right next to his Earth mode.
Yeah, I think so.
That's it?
Making a return is the fan art section, because I like to celebrate all the great fan art out there, and because there's not a lot of Sentinel Prime designs, there's no better time to showcase some of the great fan art that he's received. And starting off is one of my favourite artists, is Mesopipus. They have done such a great job of doing a Transformers 1 variant and a Dark of the Moon variant. This guy is buff, he is loaded, a lot more clear to see and to understand, and this is just badass.
Yeah, this is great. I absolutely love this art anyway. I'm a big fan of this account and the art that they post. I really love the style of their designs and everything, and it's so cool how they've taken kind of the same sort of rough silhouette and made it into a completely different thing, so definitely very cool.
Moving on to our second artist is Kairito, and always does fantastic artwork.
Like if IDW did the animated version, this is kind of almost how it would look, but I think it's incredible, honestly. Really love the shield and stuff as well. That is perfect. The overall silhouette, everything here, I just think it's spot on.
I just wish they were in a comic, you know. IDW, you've just said it perfectly, yeah.
I love the boots on this. Like, he's got really cool boots. I know that's like a weird thing to talk about, but like the treads on the boots and things, I think is exceptional. It just looks great.
He's got big boots.
Yeah, I like that, you know.
Moving on to our next artist is Shan for Art, and he has done quite a different style of Sentinel Prime, a very more vicious looking. A wise leader never speaks out war, but he must always be ready for it. And he looks like he's ready for war, right? We can see a lot of Dark of the Moon there, and we've got this sort of like Nemesis looking version as well. He just progressively gets more evil as he goes. He's got crows, he's got Cybertronian crows on him.
Man, this is something else. This is very reminiscent of the Bayverse, you know, Dark of the Moon style, I guess, isn't it? You can see how this becomes a fire truck later on, so I think it works.
Moving on to our next artist, who took it in animation form. Once again, these are just stellar. I love how his swords, unlike in animated where his swords and shield wasn't really all that big, I love with these, they've just made them massive. It's absolutely massive here.
Yeah, this is a really stylized take, but I love it. You can imagine this as a toy, actually, like a sort of high-end, you know, like licensed model kit type version or something like that. You know, it has that kind of look to it. But yeah, it's really, really cool.
We've got more Dark of the Moon versions of Sentinel Prime. Beard. I know it's like a super realistic looking beard in a way, but I actually really like that in this art style.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, I'm a big fan of beards on Transformers. I know some people are not into that, but this is cool.
Moving on to more great pieces of fan art, we've got a huge range here. I gotta say, I like all of these designs. Yeah, I'll include a sketch because that head design looks very, very nice. Very, very cool.
All of these do something really well, which is kind of blending the influences a little bit, like taking a bit of Dark of the Moon, a bit of Transformers 1, a bit of animated, and kind of, you know, to different degrees on all four of the designs, but kind of blending them in that way. But I agree about that jet design is cool.
Now, our next wave of designs is very IDW somewhat inspired, and I just think these are really nice, really cool. I like that the triple changer aspect. It kind of gives me RID 2001 vibes a little bit.
I was just thinking that, actually. Yeah, I think it's the shoulders. Yeah, just very different take, but super creative. All of these. Very, very cool.
Okay, our next set of Sentinel Primes, very like Transformers 1 inspired like designs. I love how we get to see what Sentinel Prime could have looked like in Transformers 1 with no cog. They did like a little version of him.
Oh.
I like the triple changer aspect as well with Primal's sketch. A lot of great looking artwork from here. I love the little miniature version of Sentinel Prime. Very cute, very adorable looking. You look at his face.
Yeah, it's true. I met Krisha at this year's TF Nation, and really nice person, and fantastic art as well.
Yeah, really great artwork. I see a lot of their artwork on my feed. Once again, great artwork all around from a Captain of Icon, Sentinel Prime, a very robust vehicle mode, very Captain America-like. I look at these fan art designs and I just want them to be incorporated into the shows.
Yeah, again, and you can see the influence as well from different designs.
Now for our final set of fan art, we have Rancid Products, and then we also have June Grits. Now I really like Rancid's sort of take. It's sort of a Bayverse sort of Transformers 1 design, I can see a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Sentinel Prime becoming a My Little Pony character. I gotta say, I look at this and I see this as Sentinel Prime, alright.
Definitely got the vibe for it. I think using the shield design on the side of the pony is inspired.
That's actually that's really nice attention to detail. Yeah, I like how his shield is actually imprinted on his side there.
Yeah, you got the color in the mane as well, so it's attention to detail.
He looks better as a My Little Pony.
So you were right, big deal.
Alright guys, so because I love all of these designs, I'm going to make a separate tier and simply name it I Celebrate You, because not only do me and Sixo celebrate you, but so does Sentinel Prime, obviously.
Because in the Grand Machine, if one cog doesn't work, none of the cogs do.
Is that a good thing if Sentinel Prime celebrates you though?
I mean, he's full of himself, so I think he likes the fact that people draw him.
That's true. He would definitely admire that.
There's something I need to say. Thank you.
Wow. That must have hurt.
More than you know.
And this is in no particular order, guys, as well. All fan art here, it's all treated as equal. You know, you put your work and passion into something like this.
Yeah, completely agree. I'm often in awe of so much of the Transformers art that I see.
Fellow Autobots, this is just the beginning. As your new Magnus.
And there we have it, guys. Every Sentinel Prime design ranked from worst to best. Now, Sixo, if you had to pick, what would be your all-time favorite Sentinel Prime design?
I see this is a really tough one, and I'm wondering if it's like recency bias or whatever, but I'm really digging the Transformers 1 take at the moment. I think it's got all the potential to kind of become a bit of a mainstay of the franchise ongoing, I think. So right now, I'm going to pick that one.
You forget your place.
It's really hard for me to pick because I want to say Transformers 1, but then Dark and the Moon, I'm attached to all of them in the first row. Hopefully we get to see more of animated Sentinel Prime. I mean, he's very popular.
Well, that took spark, kid. I may even have to rethink your name. What was it again?
Yeah, for such a big jerk, he's got a lot of fans.
Because I'm just that good.
Once again, I want to give a big thanks to Sixo for joining me. If you haven't already, guys, do check out his YouTube channel. He does a lot of great toy reviews. He's got a good podcast, the Triple Takeover podcast. They've recently done interviews with Lorenzo Di Bavantero and Josh Cooley, who worked on Transformers 1. A lot of great insight. These guys just so knowledgeable. Great source for Transformers news.
That's very kind. Thank you very much. You're making me blush now.
You know. I love a bot who can think things. No, I'm going to stop saying that. Actually, you know what I should have said? I should have pulled a Sentinel Prime on you and gone, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been on theme.
Forgive me.
Well, likewise, it's a big honor of mine as well. I was, very grateful for you suggesting it, and thank you for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the other videos we've done on ranking videos, and also check out Sixo's channel as well. And until the next time, guys, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
I'm Sentinel Prime, and I approve of this message.
Until next time, legends.
this planet.